Thank you, Amanda. And just to see you out for the 5 minutes, thought we'd talk about the environment we're in, what's happening in the global markets, what's happening in the global economy. It's a weird time. We know it's a weird time. We're having a virtual conference. In normal times, it would all be at Adelaide Oval, and we'd be doing this live. Here we are doing it via video. So the times are unusual. Just a reminder, this was a global health crisis due to a pandemic. Authority and policymakers had to put in a series of actions to mitigate the non-linear effects of that, and that was through lockdown, isolation, track testing. That had implications for the economy. That's had implications for the markets. So where are we today? We had a very steep, sharp fall in the markets. That is typically what happens in most crises, given that the unintended consequences of not knowing where we go from here. Markets fell very quickly from the last week of February through to the third week of March. We saw markets fall about 40%. Here we are today, a couple of months later in June, and if you would say in terms of being purely South Australian, we're in a lot better situation than we originally forecast in March. No active cases, flatten the curve, things are a lot better. The same can be said for Australia. There are some isolated cases. And even globally, some terrible consequences in China, Italy, US, the UK. But there are some hope that the cases are now starting to flatten a bit, albeit in other countries there's still some issues. Markets have since responded and have gone up again. And you may say, how can we go through a crisis and the economy still hasn't opened up and markets are rallying? And that is that they really forecast what we would call a depression. And since then, they are now factoring in a severe mini recession, and therefore markets are recovering. And they've also recovered because policymakers have stepped in. They've lowered interest rates close to zero. You're seeing JobKeeper, JobSeeker around the world, big fiscal stimulus packages put in just to help the economy as we go through this isolation period. I would say this, it is a very unusual time. We still don't know what the end game is. We still don't have a vaccine. We still have closed borders. We still don't have international travel. So to force my hand, we are in a very U-shaped economic recovery until things get better. The markets themselves are a little bit manic depressive. They will go up and down as they sort of go through. Is it a V shape, a U shape, an L shape, all of that. And so you're seeing the wobbles of the markets. I think you will still have more volatile markets. I obviously do superannuation and run investments. The superannuation balances will be a lot more volatile than they've recently been in the past because we're in this unusual period. And unfortunately, I think this carries on for a while. Normality will be when we are walking the streets and you look up and you're seeing planes landing and international students. And the fact that we're not there yet and won't be there for a while, we are in a period where we adjust to the new circumstances. The one thing that has come out of this is never underestimate human ingenuity. Even across in the US or even here in South Australia, businesses and people are adapting to the new environment and finding new ways to do things. That's great. They still need help and support, and the best support comes from lower rates and a federal and or state government helping businesses and individuals get through this. But in the interim period, we will still have these volatile conditions. So waking up every morning and seeing markets could be up or down a couple of 100 points or returns up or down 3 or 4%. This is typically the environment we'll have for a while. When does it subside is the best question I get asked a lot. And that is effectively when unemployment is back to low 5 or 6, the economy is basically on full tanks, and there's probably a vaccine or a way we've worked around this this pandemic. And that could be, unfortunately, that we're in this type of environment as we go online, and we are going online, which is good. We'll come to that earlier, but we could be in this environment for at least another 12 to 18 months. That's not to say things don't improve from here, given that we all shut down and stayed at home. But it does mean that it will take time for the economy to come back. It won't feel like it was, say, prior to this, or probably even prior to the bushfires. And because we're in this environment, it's just going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. But that's the world we've inhabited. As I said, the good news is, and I don't want to sound dour before for lunch, but the good news is in our state, we can be really proud that we've come on quicker. And in terms for Australia, it's doing a lot better than we initially feared. The advantages will be there. I did a food a couple of weeks ago where I talked about one of the things we see as investors. You will see the branded food and what you eat, how you eat, where it gets sourced from, how it gets treated will be a big part of this new environment. And as we move to sort of more local and branded and what's safe, I think South Australia in particular can feel really good that we will be coming out of this in much better position than many other parts of the world. But we do want other parts of the world to come out of this because we are a small open economy and we trade, and the ability to take what we do well in this state and trade it between Australia, the states. I see there's a border skirmish at the moment between Victoria and South Australia. No contest, we beat them hands down. But also trade internationally because people will want the stuff that we do really well. So it was supposed to be short, sharp and quick. I hope that was okay, and I'll pass it back. So thank you.